Now, Mike Wigston, who was my boss when I was on 12, and again, he's a great guy. He did a report into bullying called the Wigston Report. And I think with that, he then came in and saw that as his lead, as his, right, that's my thing. So then he came in and said, we've got to celebrate diversity. What is diversity anyway? I tell you how I know I like this place. I walk in here, I look at the books around here. I own half of them myself, which means we're talking to each other, of course. You've got Douglas Murray's book over there. You've got Thomas Sowell over there. I mean, it's, all these books, it's like my own library in here. Mm-hmm. I wish some people would read some of these books sometimes, It should be like mandated reading. Just, it's not difficult, is it? Just read these books.
Lotus Eaters do book clubs on various things. It's on the website. Check out.
You should, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, this is how we enlighten ourselves. And so he's dragged this stuff through. And I think within the military, there are some elements that have really bitten into this. So the pronouns in the bio thing was a big thing for me. I think that's a cult. Okay, we doing this in 10 years' time. We were putting pronouns in bio. And I had one of the guys I was chatting to on Twitter. Why on Twitter am I doing this? Because I was a fighter pilot, like fight, fighter pilot, right? Why not? But he was saying, this guy was saying, look, I put pronouns on my signature footer at the bottom, whatever, because his name was, I think, Stuart Roxbury or something. And he was an officer in the Air Force, I believe, or maybe in the Navy. He said, because I sometimes sign my emails Roxy and people don't know whether I'm a girl or a boy. And I said, well, God forbid you might be professional and actually sign it Stuart. You know what I mean? It's like, well, stop being an idiot, mate. We're not 15 years old, right, are we? Yeah. You're in the military. Yeah. Sign it Stuart. Or whatever your name is, Lieutenant Roxbury or whatever it is, It's that kind of thing. And that obviously blew his mind that he, it's like, oh, that's an interesting point. It's like, yeah, stop being a dick, mate. Come on, just sign it. And I got another one as well. A lady said, well, my name's Joe, and sometimes people think I'm a guy. You don't explode, do you? You know what I mean? Just so now they've stopped addressing emails as sir and ma'am because you're assuming someone's gender if you do that, apparently. It's a bloody military.
And who even cares?
I know.
Right?
Well, no one cares, but it's a way that you can be that victim. And I think people like being a victim nowadays, don't they? It's easier to be a victim than it is actually go out and pick a weight up or get a job.
It's the easiest thing in the world to claim you're offended.
Exactly. I don't care if you're offended. Be offended. Yeah. I think Douglas Murray says that. You take offence. I don't care. When do we stop? You know what I mean? So it's just weakness that's permeating society, I think, to a certain extent. And I personally hate it. And the fact it's got into the service that I was in 15 years, it's greatly upsetting. What that thing you referred to was an email that someone sent from an outer office. And I think what happened is Paramount had said to the Royal Air Force, even though it's a Navy film, they said to the Royal Air Force, do you want to send some pilots down here to stand around our mock-up Typhoon, which they had at the premiere with Tom Cruise? And the Air Force, unfortunately, decided, wouldn't it be great to show diversity out there? Because we only got 2.5% ethnic minorities within the service, which is lower than the Army, but the Army goes out all over the world, doesn't it, and recruits from different nations, and that's how they get their diversity one up. And the Navy's a bit better on that, but of course, if you're the boss of the Air Force, you've got 2.5%, the other chiefs are saying, we're better than you, mate, you know what I mean? And the government did have targets, by the way, to bring more ethnic minorities into the military. They haven't got targets now.
Conservative government.
Yeah, the targets were met, so they haven't officially got targets now, but they did have targets. And the Royal Air Force have said, well, we want to be 30%, 30% ethnic minority by, I think it's 2025 or something like that. My argument is, I think it might be 20% ethnic minority and 30% women. And all you've got to do is ask why.
Why? Yeah, why? How is that best?
It's a meritocracy. So now and of course the best people may be within these cohorts. I'm not denying that whatsoever. But the issue with the email was the young lady, well, I assume she's called Sarah. I'm assuming she was a young lady, but you never know nowadays. Didn't have her pronouns down, unfortunately, so I couldn't really tell. So I'm sorry if I'm offending her. But she'd written, assuming they'd written, preferably, she said, I need a pilot to attend this event, preferably not a white male. And that was sent to me by, I think, about 25, 30 different people, just flood in. I normally try and validate this before. I've got some contacts still in the service. I've got a lot of contacts. So I wrote to someone quite senior and I said, I'm going to whack this out on a video. He's like, yeah, we thought you would. And he's calling the gang. He's like, yeah, dude, nothing we can do about it. And I said, can you just tell me if it's real? And he said, yeah, it came from whatever office it came out of. So I did a video about it. And rightly so, because there's 84% of the Royal Air Force that is a white man. And so my argument being, if you're going to be inclusive, you've got to be inclusive of everyone. And yeah, I'm called names for this and stuff. Someone the other day, it happened again on LinkedIn, a friend of mine, Joe, She's very serious. She's very senior in the military. She's very senior in the Air Force. She's a great person. She put a picture up on LinkedIn saying, "So privileged to work with a great bunch of people." And there was no white man in that picture. It was, there was Black and Asian, Sikh, and all that kind of stuff, and her as a white woman. And it was actually, there was no context to the picture, you see. So you think she's saying, "Great to work with grunts." And all I said was, "Jay, you need a white man in there." Well, if you're going to be inclusive, put a white dude in. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't, you've got everyone else, you know what I mean? Just then you would be inclusive, surely.
Right, yeah.
But if you don't have a white man in there, you're not.
No, you're quite right. I think that the idea of inclusivity or diversity, it's a trick. They don't want diversity. I think like diversity is code for less white people. It's simple as that. It's not diverse. As you say, you end up with a picture where there's no white men at all. I mean, how perverse is that? So it's not diversity. In fact, you're talking about something else.
Well, as Thomas Sowell says about diversity, is like that's the most nonsensical word in the world.
Right, it barely means anything, does it?
And also, the other great thing about diversity, and I don't want to be that kind of white guy going, "We mustn't be diverse," because I've got loads of, I'm that guy. I've got a black friend, crikey, I'm that, that guy, aren't I? But I don't see a problem. On my flight sim, by the way, I've never seen a single face of any single person on there. I was chatting with a dude the other day.
That's a true meritocracy then.
Well, of course it is.
And that's the best thing, no? I mean,
and sometimes a guy
wrong
will go,
with that?
"Oh yeah," a guy will send you a picture. I got sent a picture of an airline pilot. I have seen one, and he was an Egyptian guy. Been flying with the guy for years. It didn't bother me, it didn't bother him, it didn't bother anyone. Does it? Why would it? Yeah. We're making it bother something. So we're making it an issue, aren't we? Or people are, because they're just race grifters, aren't they?
Right.
It's the Stella Creases of this world that want to be bringing something in about nothing, and talking about women can have a penis and it's all that kind of stuff. But they've got to be doing it for a reason. I don't even want to talk about Stella Creasy because you guys did a great video on that recently, and I watched that and I thought that was superb. So yes, I did a piece on that. The Air Force again actually held their hands up to it and said, "Yeah, it's hit us inside the Air Force as well. That doesn't do us any good whatsoever. It actually puts us back. It makes us look like idiots." And actually, I think Paramount withdrew the invite because of the bad publicity.
Right.
So they think Carol Vorderman was there instead with a top open, so that doesn't do any good, does it?
Because you saw the film, you've seen the new.
I've seen that, yeah.
Was it any good?
Yeah, it's all
no
true.
Alert,
all
please,
true. Yeah. Spoilers alert. No, it's the film. The film is a great. I think it's someone labelled it as a men's weepy epic or something, and it really looks, I think, at masculinity and age. I think age is a great thing. The great thing for me about it, I mean, obviously they asked me to do it, and I said, "Give it to Tom. He's old. He's a pensioner now. He needs the money, doesn't he? You know what I mean? I can't take the gig. Can't take the gig." But no, he's great in it, and he's happy to be great. Does that make sense? He's loving every moment. He's filming it. He's smiling throughout. I think he really enjoyed himself, and that's what made the film great.
Because he can fly in real life. He owns a P-51, I believe.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but yeah, his aircraft is in that. His aircraft's in the film.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, he's in the film. I mean, yeah, I like it. It's worth going to see. It could have been, because it was made in the era, or the peak woke era, wasn't it? And it could have been like that, and it isn't at all.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah. Well, I will check it out.
Yeah, it isn't at all. I was really worried. I was slating it. I was like, it's going to be rubbish. But no, he's done a good job there. Yeah. So
I do want to ask you another sort of fairly serious question about wokeness before we move on from that. But one last thing, just when you see like a film like Top Gun or the remake or any movie, any TV drama where you see fast jets in it, or even any aeroplane, do you ever notice, oh, that's so wrong?
All the time. But yeah, it's a film. Right. Yeah, it's a film though, and majority of jet flying is quite tedious, to be fair. You got to think about what you're doing. I'm sat in a cockpit, strapped in. I can't move. I've got G-pants on. I've got a life vest. Okay, so if we go through so being a jet pilot is actually quite hard work. You've got to put your long johns in, which are fire-resistant material. Then you've got to put a flight suit over the top, which is fire-resistant material. Then you've got your G-pants, you've got your life preserver, you've got a helmet, you've got your gloves, you've got bits of metal around your legs where the ejection seat lanyards go through. You attach the ejection seat to the top of your arms here, so as you leave the aircraft, it rips your whole of your line of your life vest and keeps your hands down here so you don't get flaying injuries. So you've got all that. Then you're connected to oxygen, which you're force feeding anyway. During the flight, whenever you pull G, your trousers inflate and cause a lot of pressure. And most of the time you're transiting somewhere. You're at low level, transiting to a target. And then there's about 20 seconds of pure terror. And then you transit home again, and then you land a jet. So yeah, I mean, when you see the film, I won't ruin it, I mean, I was an electronic warfare instructor, so my speciality was SA2s, SA3s, SA611s, all these surface-to-air missile systems, enemy radar systems. So of course I look at it, and my wife was loving it. She's there going, "Oh, it's amazing, jet pilot's so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, we do that. Yeah, all that." She tells people that all the time. She's like, "Oh, it's so uncool being a jet pilot or being married to a jet pilot." I mean, I'm like, "Shut up, big me up, innit? Big me up."
Have you ever been tempted to tell people you've done stuff that you have done? Oh yeah,
No,
no,
never.
I've taken out
I don't.
7 MiGs personally in one day once.
No.
I
don't
wouldn't
even
expect you would.
No, I'm not that guy. I don't.
No, I wouldn't expect you
The
to.
lessons
It's a silly question.
No, it's fine. But the lessons I take across, the lessons I try and give out are more tangible, usable lessons about either learning or career development, whatever it might be, that help people out. The background and things we do. I'd love to move on to something else now, but I don't have that 20-year investment, and to get it, it'll take another 20 years. I don't know what I'd do. I mean, you're talking downstairs about what you did previously, and that's interesting to me. I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but I know it's not. I know bits of it is not, and so moving into another industry now would be difficult, and I'd be at the bottom, and I don't want to do business development. So I use those lessons and I present them in many different kind of ways I can. But no one. I don't know any pilots that would really talk about stuff they haven't done.
Right, yeah, no.
But their mates would call them out anyway.
Right,
So,
yeah.
it's one of those
I feel
things.
like almost like comically when you realise you're speaking to someone who really knows nothing about it.
I see what you mean, yeah.
You can sort
You
of
could
say,
do that, couldn't you?
"Oh yeah, well, yeah, no, you wouldn't dream of it." But I remember one time you talking about you've met some F-22 dudes, and I remember you saying that they're just sort of the creme de la creme.
Yeah, I was very
sort
impressed,
of,
actually.
That they've got sort of skills that are just above and beyond. I remember you saying that a guy realised he quit because it was so intense, or he realised he was towards the end of his career anyway, and he realised they were sort of targeting things behind them.
That's right.
And it just sort of blew his mind.
He was the base commander, and he was flying with young F-22 pilots. He was in charge of the base they were on. He can fly the aircraft, and he did the workup and everything. And they're young people that fly airplanes now they put a lot of work in, put it that way, and they're very talented, and the aircraft are very complicated, and I've got a lot of time for them. It was a real privilege to train some of them up. I've got a lot of time. And in America, the F-22 is renowned as being, you send the best people onto that jet. And we're all nerds, right? So we're all geeks. Don't get me wrong. Don't think, jet pilots are cool and playing volleyball and stuff like that. I love that, but they're not. They're all, you're all just absolute geeks. Because you got to read the manuals and you got to read the books and you got to learn a load of stuff. And,
More Nigel Mansell than James Hunt.
Yeah. Was it Sex Breakfast for Champions? Wasn't it? That was James Hunt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He died early, of course, isn't it? It's a shame.
He did, yeah.
Just keep budgerigars. It's a great autobiography I read of him. Anyway,
He was a heavy smoker, wasn't he?
Heavy.
Didn't help.
Drugs as well, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, a lot of drugs he took as well, recreational drugs. And I think that just shortened his life. And he had a heart attack, didn't he? He was around a mate's house or something.
He was very young, yeah.
It's really good to read about him, though. I like that. He lived his life, I see, because this is us going off tangents, because you do this to me. He lived his life twice as fast, really, didn't he? So all his years, he just condensed, didn't he?
Yeah, burned very brightly.
Yeah, I think so. And like rock stars that die early, isn't it?
Yeah. Fair play to him if that's how he wanted to do it.
I used to see there was a lot left in him, and him keeping budgerigars and that kind of stuff. And his backstory was lovely. The whole thing is lovely. He had a relationship with Murray Walker, didn't he? At the end, when he used to commentate with them, they used to hate each other, and then they kind of warmed to each other. Old school F1. Don't get me talking about that now.
Oh, well, yeah. Me too.
But no, the F-22 guys. That guy was their commander, and he found himself just absolutely maxed out. We call it, like cognitively impaired in a fight with all these young people, and he came down afterwards and went, I can't do it anymore. And I remember saying, he said, there are some clever people, that fly that airplane. Most of them then go into an astronaut program or something.
Right.
Or they,
It's crazily brave and honest, isn't it? I mean,
there is that.
Kind of beautifully brave and honest to say, okay, I'm out of my I'm like an instructor for this thing, and yet the truth is I'm out of my depth here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's great leadership, right?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I mean, exactly that. And I think you see quite a lot of that in flying, because if you don't do that, people die and their mates are yours. So you come back and you're open and honest about what you did. I remember there was a Frenchman on our squadron. I was really trying to get a culture in of this honesty on the squadron. Like, there is honesty, but just say, guys, we could learn a lot more from each other if we just bury the egos a little bit. And there aren't massive egos anyway, but you've got to have a bit of confidence to get in these jets, because the big old airplanes, and you've got a lot of fuel behind you, and someone's attached a rocket to it. It's a bit weird. And I said, look, we could be a bit honest with this. And then people started opening up, and it all really changed when a mate of mine who's a French pilot, who I could never beat in air combat talk. The French are very, very good at this stuff. He stood up in a Met brief once, The French pilots are sort of renowned for their arrogance and scarf and they're just, I don't know why, they just are. And this guy was the reverse of that. This guy was the most humble dude ever, one of the best fighter pilots I've ever seen. Like what he could do with our airplanes against us, I could never even. He would tell me. He would show me videos of how to do it, and he would go through the 3-dimensional stuff and how to use the speed and the buffet and how to use angles. And I even flew with him in an airplane, and he even showed me what he was doing. I still couldn't replicate. He still beat me around the sky. There was a couple of guys in the squadron I could never touch, and he was one of them, and it was just fantastic. And I remember him standing up in a Met brief, so the early morning brief where we have the weather, and he put his hand up and he said, "I want to tell people what happened yesterday," and he'd made an error, and he explained it all. And he was such a senior guy as well. That from then on, everyone realized on the squadron that you could be honest, you could be open. And it's funny because I do some work with some businesses now. Doesn't really happen in businesses. I work with some civvy businesses. People wouldn't do that. And I think they're worried about either if they did it, other people in the business won't do it. So they will look stupid and might lose their job. But the business would grow if people were open and honest about errors they were making, or the fact that they may be out their depth somewhere and could someone give them a hand. You think about that in a business. It's crazy wild. That trust.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Because the Navy SEALs, they do that on trust. They don't look for the best guy. They look for, on their SEAL Team 6 Special Forces team, they don't look for the best operators to go in there. They look for, ones that are really good, but ones that are really trustworthy.
Right.
And those are the ones they pick.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.